Left in the ashes are memories, a concerto in G-flat for spirit, survival, and soul. Program note. Tonight's reflection unfolds as a living symphony, each memory a movement, each emotion a note played from the heart. Maestro Kateb Nuri Alim Shunar conducts the orchestra of his life with bare hands dusted in ashes. Ashes of loss, love, and legacy. What you are about to witness is more than a story. It's a score written by the soul, performed by spirit, and offered as testimony to those who've ever had to rise again. This is not merely a concert. This is resurrection in rhythm. By Kateb Nuri Alim Shunar. The lights were dimmed just right, a soft golden hue washing over the concert hall like morning sun through worn lace curtains. I stood at center stage, baton in hand, dressed in a black velvet tailcoat with tribal etchings embroidered along the sleeves. Some folks call me a conductor, but tonight, nah. I was a maestro of memories, tuning pain into music, chaos into harmony. And tonight's opening, well, let's just say it didn't go as planned. The drummer lost his sticks. The flutist was chewing gum and blowing bubbles like she was 10 years old again on her grandma's porch. One of the string players tuned their violin so sharp it could slice through steel. Me? I just chuckled, shook my head, and tapped the podium like a preacher who's done heard it all before. Let the mess make sense, I whispered to myself, because I know mess. I know what it feels like when life unravels and the music you thought you composed gets hijacked by some offbeat tragedy. I know the silence after a crescendo that never comes. 7 long years. That's how long my symphony went quiet. First came the death of my son. A silence so sharp, so deep, it echoed inside me like an abandoned sanctuary. Then my grandmother Celestine passed. That woman was my root system, my anchor. When she left, the whole tree inside me shook loose. And just when I thought the tears were drying, Georgia folded on me. Folk I loved thought loved me back, sabotaged everything I had built. My dreams scattered like sheet music in a storm. I crawled back to New Orleans broke, bruised, barely breathing. No job, no home, just me and my son trying to pick up the notes of a life that felt out of tune. We ended up with my mama, who was sick, and after just 3 months of being home, she too passed, like the final note of a dirge that never resolves. And that, my friend, was the overture of my ashes. Interlude, a breath between movements. The lights dim just a touch lower. The violins hush. A soft hush settles in the room like incense rising. This is the stillness before remembrance begins to hum again. In this pause, there is no performance, only presence. The maestro closes his eyes for a moment, feeling the pulse of the past tap gently at the edge of his spirit. The next movement begins not with a shout, but with a heartbeat. Now let me say this plain. When you're standing in the ruins of your life, you don't hear violins. You hear your own sobs bouncing off the walls. You hear silence that hums like a broken amp. And every now and then, if you sit still enough, you hear the laughter of old memories trying to comfort you, even if just for a moment. See, in the ashes there are echoes, there are fingerprints, there are the scents of Sunday dinners and the sounds of your grandma humming over a pot of red beans. Memories don't die in the fire, they glow in the embers. I remember one night, sitting on my mother's porch, half drunk on grief and hopelessness, wondering if the Creator had hit the mute button on my prayers. My son was asleep inside, clutching a teddy bear like it was life support. I was thinking about disappearing. For real. But then I swear to you I heard something. Not a voice, not thunder, just rhythm. A soft beat, like someone tapping a djembe with fingertips. My grandmother's voice floated in. Baby, you still breathing. That means you still got purpose. Man, I cried like the sky opened. That night I picked up my baton again. Not literally, I'm talking about my will to live, my purpose, my inner maestro. And now here I am, back in the concert hall of my own becoming, laughing at the mess, tuning the pain, holding the line while the memories dance like flames on a windy night. Because let me tell you, ain't nothing more soulful than composing beauty from what was burnt. African folklore speaks of the ash-footed boy, a child who walked through fire, not around it. People feared he was cursed, but really, he was chosen. The ashes on his feet were proof he'd survived the fire. They say he could summon the spirits of ancestors with a stomp of his foot. Folks didn't understand him, but they listened when the ground began to sing. I am that boy. You might be too. So now when I lift this baton, I do it not to control the music, but to remind myself that even in chaos, there's rhythm. Even in loss, there are harmonies waiting to be played. You just gotta be bold enough to pick up the pieces, brush off the soot, and let your soul sing again. My orchestra ain't perfect. We got tone-deaf days and sour notes, but the beauty is in how we keep showing up, how we laugh through tears, how we let the past hum beneath the present. The timpani booms when I talk about my son, the notes trembling like the earth itself mourned with me. The violins cry when I speak of my grandmother Celestine, sweet and mournful, like the wind singing through Spanish moss. The woodwinds whisper about Georgia sweet on the surface, but laced with betrayal and loneliness, swirling like hot air around a scorched front porch. And when I raise my arms to conduct my return to New Orleans, the brass swells with confusion, heartbreak, and finally grit. I nod toward the cello as it weeps beneath the weight of my mother's last breaths. The bass answers with depth, grounding my spirit, refusing to let me float too far off in grief. And yet just behind all of that, the choir rises, soft at first, then louder. They don't sing words. They hum the tone of survival, a melody stitched together with every moment I wanted to give up but didn't. The ash is on my hands, on my shoes, in my voice, but I ain't afraid of it anymore. Sometimes I conduct with tears in my eyes. Other times I conduct with a grin wide enough to make the ancestors clap in rhythm. And when the orchestra catches fire, not literally, but when the music locks into the groove of something real, whew, you'd think we summoned the whole village. And I imagine Celestine in the audience fanning herself like she did at church, whispering, That's my grandbaby making music from the rubble. So, if you're out there standing in your own burnt-out places, remember this. Don't curse the fire. Conduct the symphony, and let the ashes teach you how to play again. Finale, the applause of ancestors. The hall goes quiet, but not for long. Somewhere deep in the spiritual balcony, The ancestors rise to their feet, Celestine leading the ovation with a tambourine in one hand and a sweet potato pie in the other. My mama's clapping, slow and proud, mouthing, "That's my baby." My son's spirit, he's in the percussion section, banging out a victory rhythm on heavenly bongos. Even the creator leans forward with a grin, nodding like, "Now that's how you flip sorrow into soul music." See, this ain't just survival. It's jazzed up, funk sprinkled, and Holy Ghost filled, divinely conducted revival. And if you're wondering whether the ashes can still sing, just listen closely. They already are.